Oh, hi. Welcome to episode 28. We are getting through them, although progress on this RT is painfully slow, even though I'm spending quite some long time up here. You may recall last week I mentioned I was going to do that wiring at the back of the driver's cab. There's a small piece of conduit about that long, which runs round the back bulkhead. Unfortunately, I had to take the bulkhead out, which I didn't really intend to do. So that's lost me a lot of time. But the wires are now in the conduit, thankfully. I've got some footage of the horrors of me doing that. Another good thing is one of our members from the other side is taking his DM. He's got DM 999, which is parked up here, and he's going to Worthing Bus Rally on Sunday. So he's taking that out today. So that should be a bit of fun. Anyway, yeah, so progress, hopefully, this weekend. I shall start putting some stuff back into the cab. It's not going to be very quick. It's not going to happen overnight, unfortunately. None of this thing seems to happen overnight. Like I said before, it's a bit like peeling an onion. You know, the more you take off, the more you find you need to do. So anyway, progress. I think we're getting there. So hopefully enjoy this episode. Let's see how we get on today.
Okay, that damned conduit keeps coming back to haunt me. Lesson for the future: don't try and rewire an old bus. Now, the conduit carries these cables around the vehicle, so you very rarely find just a cable just hanging there. But anyway, as you can see in my hand is a piece of conduit that I have removed from this bulkhead. The bulkhead at the front of the bus, that cream thing just there, zooming in on, the conduit sits just above the top of that grill where the sort of the air intake is, and what it does is it takes the cables for the bell and the buzzer, and now because I've done a little gee-whizzy rewire, the cables for the indicators all run through there. So I really do hate taking things out, and I'd done this years ago, so I knew at least I could get the thing out. So yeah, so that had to come out and to expose this horrid piece of conduit. Unfortunately, I tried to do it initially with the panel still in place, but the problem with the conduit is this end here, which I'm fiddling around with the screwdriver, is extremely narrow, and the cables have to be in a really good position. Now, on the end of my cables, I've put little tags to indicate which wire does which, because you know, luckily they're not all black, all different colours, so I can actually work it backwards. But anyway, sadly, having poked these two wires down into there, the little ends came off, got stuck in there, and there was something else stuck in there as well. So lots of fiddling around to get this to work. But it's I don't know. They're better off with a conduit off the bus like this, or out of the bus as it were, and then feeding the cables through that way. So this is a little quickie diagram that shows what I'm trying to achieve. So all those cables in pink, they're just highlighted for the purposes of this, are the cables that need to go to the bell and the interrupter unit. The interrupter unit is the thing that sits in the cab and goes tick-tock, tick-tock, you know what I mean. So, yeah, and the bell and buzzer are fairly self-explanatory. But this just shows the various feeds that I needed to do to get into that conduit. So the damn thing wasn't going to defeat me. Having fiddled around with it for a short while, I managed to get all the little tags out that had got stuck in there. Plus, I found some other bits of detritus still in that pipe. Sprayed it with WD-40, and as luck would have it, some traction. We got the whole thing going. Got the cables moving down down that conduit perfectly. I tell you what, while we're in the saloon of the bus, and I'm feeding this wire through here, my friend Mark Davis popped in to see me and said, oh, there's another one of those part number plates just there. And do you know what? I hadn't noticed that, and it's really big. And it sits just above that little pot. What I do when I take things apart, I put all the screws and everything that came out in that little pot, or those pots. I've got a whole series of them. The only problem is you can't always remember which screws went in which part, because quite often you find longer and shorter screws for a whole variety of reasons. This was a bit of a horrible job, as you may have noticed, and I caught the camera at one point and fell over in the bus, but hey-ho. Using this little bit of tape just to make sure that the thing fits into the conduit properly. So yeah, a bit of fun, there we go. So having got that done eventually, those wires now hang and mind their own business in the cab. So I've got that back in. That was screwed back in. I'm not going to bore you with all of that because it goes on forever. And as luck will have it, this is on sort of double speed time. Yeah, so there we are. How much more excitement do you want in one day? Right, so back to putting things back in the cab and sticking with the theme of electrical things. This is the cover that sits in the cab just beside the driver. I did all of these little films that I made, and unfortunately for some reason it's all gone a bit wibbly wobbly. So so that's what I've ended up with. I don't quite get it, but my iPhone outputs the video in one particular file type, and Mavani, which is what I use for editing this, doesn't seem to like it. So we got freeze frame. But anyway, while we've got freeze frame, hopefully you have got freeze frame, you've got nothing else. What you got is the text on this is not transfers or vinyls or anything like that. What it is they're little indents in the panel where they've stamped in this case it's starter, heater on. And what you have to do is, having painted the panel nice and black, you then use some white paint, as I've done here, place it on just over the little indents and then wipe it off. That's the plan. You can see the panel just above my hand. I've already had a go at doing that. Unfortunately, in this occasion, on this particular piece, they are really worn out and there's hardly any depth in their thing. I mean, so when people grab hold of the starter and pull it down, obviously each time they do that, so they capture the thing and it wears it thin. So there isn't anything on there. With the other panel, you really don't need to fiddle with it, so it doesn't really wear it very thin. So it's come out okay, but it was a bit of a horrid job. So what you do, as you can see on here, I paint some white paint on. Oh, it's moving now. That's weird, isn't it? So I paint some white paint on it and then put a coin in a cloth. There's a little coin in there, and then wipe off the paint. And as you can see, you wipe off a little bit too much because it's so damn shallow. And what I kept doing was doing this. So, and eventually just building it up until I'd got a reasonable thickness. So this is, you can call this like the first coat, but yeah, it is really quite tough to do it, to be quite honest with you, and it's a bit of a soul destroying job. It's not much fun. So yeah, you have to keep going at it and going at it until eventually it works. Right, so sticking with the theme of painting, out I am with my trusty pot of Decaloid paint. I love that paint. It's about 30, maybe more years old. Old-fashioned paints are lovely to work with. The EU came along and made a complete mess of paint, which makes it so difficult to use now. So before I put the windows back in, which I'm nowhere near doing, but obviously as I start to put stuff back in the cab, it gets closer and closer to putting the windows back in. So I need to get this painted. So the window, opener window would sit just over here with rubber, so it makes like a little seal on the edge. But I do need to do this. So what I'm doing here is popping on some green paint. Now that brush is, it's called a Purdy. It's a lovely brush, and although it might look a bit manky at one point in the shot somewhere, it is actually really nice brush. If you look after your brushes, they'll look after you. Don't go down B&Q and buy a £1 brush, because frankly you might as well use a toilet brush or a toothbrush or something like that. But a decent brush and some decent paint, and absolutely works wonders. So there you go. So that's me just popping a little bit of paint on that corner piece there. Yeah, so yeah, quite therapeutic really. And if you finish your brush marks down as well, by the way, so you know, don't just do it all sort of left and right, because it looks like a right mess. So always finish your brush marks down. There you go. So that's looking a bit better now. Right, so we'll finish this weekend with a picture of the inside of the cab. On the top there, you'll see some wires that just hang out and dangle into the driver's cab area. They are all the wires that need to be connected to the bell, the interrupter unit, and the buzzer. So they're all ready to go. As you can see, I've got quite a lot of extra length on there, but there was one wire that came up a wee bit short. So hopefully it will just work. I think the second shortest one you can see is that red one that hangs down and just pokes in. So there's plenty of wire on there for me to do that. So that's a job for a future day. The ceiling is not too bad. It's a wee bit glossy, I think, possibly. The more matte I make it, the more it's going to get scuffed. So there we are. There's the interior of the cab. Okay, before you say it, what on earth is a DMS doing on my RT videos? One of the great things about having a barn full of different people and have different vehicles is some people go a little bit off-piste and they don't buy RTs or RMs, but they buy unusual vehicles, unusual by today's standards. Right, so this is a Daimler Fleetline. Hugely unloved when they arrived in the 1970s. They arrived with a single deck. It's not a single deck variant. People might look at them and say they're the same, but the Swifts and Merlins were single deck vehicles, which used to shake and shudder quite a bit. But they were really disliked. But there were two different types of these Daimler Fleetlines. The majority were one person operated. But there was also a smaller number which were designed for use as crew buses. And, the idea being as the aging RTs were coming out of service, they would use these things to replace sort of Route Masters and RTs. So that was the basic idea of this. And this is a DM that started life at Muswell Hill. So my mate Frank Strater would know about this bus, I'm sure. So this one started at Muswell Hill on Route 43. And would have ended up in Chinkford on the 102, because on the Sundays, Muswell Hill used to put these DMs out on the 102. And I must admit, when going home to Chinkford on the Red Bus Rover, my child Red Bus Rover, well, I thought, oh no, it's a DM for horrible things. But it was really great to actually have a ride on this. So Nick, who owns this bus, was taking it out to Worthing Rally on the Sunday. And he asked me if I wanted to come for a ride with him while he took it down to the petrol station. So myself, Mark Davis and his mother joined Nick for a ride down to the local petrol station to put some fuel in it. It went to Worthing and performed faultlessly. So it was really nice because, as I say, as a kid I didn't like these at all. I thought they were horrible buses, but this really this bus here is really lovely. It's been well maintained. A good friend of mine, Alan Brown, and his son Anthony have done an awful lot of work on this bus. They were up on at the barn a couple of weeks back, working away on it for Nick. So yeah, very brave lad. On the right of the shot, you probably just saw a quick picture of Mark Davis, who's sitting there quietly, which is unusual for him. Only joking, Mark. And sitting in the one of the front seats was his mum. So anyway, here they are the following day on the Sunday. I'm up there nice and early, and they're setting off at about 7:30, I suppose, about 7:30 in the morning. I get up there about 6, hard life I have. So anyway, here he is setting off for Worthing with Mark's mum and various friends of his. But like I say, it went to Worthing. It was quite popular, and it performed absolutely faultlessly. So there we are. So there is a DMS. Nick likes Croydon, by the way, because he used to work in Croydon. So that was Nick waving goodbye, and there's all waving a bit like that. Lovely. See you.
Yeah,
bye.
cheers,
Get your
thanks,
RTD.
Johnny.
So there we are. There's a DMS. So yeah, off they go to Worthing. How nice. Right. So as they set off to Worthing, I set back off to the shed eventually, and get on with my RT. So there's the joys of bus preservation for you. Like I say, it is an unusual vehicle by today's standards. People love RTs. There's a few of them preserved, as you well know, and Routemasters by the dozen. But things like this, DMSs, the Swifts, the Merlins, the Leyland Nationals even, have all sort of disappeared into history. So it's really nice to see one of these vehicles that stand out in the crowd. So thanks very much for watching, and I look forward to doing next week's one. Hopefully the weather sticks up and hopefully you have a good time. So thank you very much for sticking with me.